Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jill Hicks, and we are going to get started with our seventh recruiting workshop. So I'm excited to see everybody on here. We have some really good topics today, I think, that are going to be helpful. So I'd love to know who's here. So if you guys would put in, I'll put the website here just in case you have any questions about JH Consulting. And anytime, if you want to, you can put in your athlete's level, no names, you don't have to put any names, your athlete's level and maybe year in school, because that can be really helpful for when I'm speaking on these topics to know, am I speaking to a younger crowd or am I speaking to an older group of athletes? So level 10, 29, level 10, 27. Super helpful, you guys. Thank you. Level 9, sophomore. So we've got quite a variety here. Level 10s, competing first year. Awesome, you guys. Thank you. This is really, really helpful. Okay, good, good, good. All right, so keep those coming. I'll keep taking a peek at them. Also, if you have any questions, you're always welcome to type them in there. And at the end, I'd be happy to, do my best to try to answer. I try to keep these, semi-short. I know a lot of you, it's midday, you're busy, you might even be in the car. There's a lot going on in your lives when you have athletes, as I know. So here we go. We're going to do two topics today. And I had a lot of fun actually doing research on these because they aren't very much talked about. So, one is what nobody tells you that could increase your gymnast opportunities for recruitment. We're going to talk about those items. I actually thought I only had a few, and then it ended up I have, I think, nine. So, there's a lot more to that than I think we ever talk about. And so I'm excited to share those. And then the second topic today is going to be how to start discussions now with your athlete about the challenges of them fitting into their college team. Again, not a topic probably very little discussed. I might even have some parents on today that have a freshman or a sophomore in college and they're not connecting very well with their college teams. So statistically, 35% of all Division One athletes say they don't feel comfortable on their college team or they don't feel connected. They are actually lonely. So I'm going to go over that a little bit because I do think we can be prepping our athletes while they're at home before they even go off to college, that this is probably going to be a challenge. And we just kind of do all this hard work to get them recruited, and then they're actually calling you crying, saying they don't feel comfortable with their team. So there's a lot that goes on with recruiting that I take for granted because I've been around it for over 40 years now. But I really like to share with you everything that I know so that it can make it a smoother process. I care about these kids. I care about you as parents. We care about you as a company. We know it's not easy and that you guys are pouring tons of time and money and hopes and dreams into their, current time as an athlete in high school or middle school, but also as they hopefully get to do this in college. All right, so let's start with I also like to share at JH Consulting, we like to start by ninth grade or level nine, whichever comes first. And here's the reason why. We're not going to throw the athlete right into recruiting, but what we do is create a foundation for them so that when they get to level 10, they've already gone to some appropriate summer camps and fall clinics, which I find most families pick the wrong ones because how would you know? Without a background in this sport, it's really hard to know if your athlete's going to be at that level that they desire of the teams they enjoy. So we like to start ninth grade or level nine, whichever comes first. And we just set the foundation and then try to get them to the right camps those summers. It goes by really fast. You may think you have a lot of time, but they start getting recruited after their sophomore year. So really, you only have a couple years if you start with us in ninth grade. We have short term, we have long term packages. We have one that's called Bright Futures. It's a package for middle schoolers. So if you just want to know what's ahead as a parent, so you can kind of take a deep breath and know maybe your athlete's on the right track, and hear about what will come, that's a small little package. We also have a advisor who does essay writing, and she's phenomenal. Her name is Christy. We also have Mike, who came from UCLA, and he was the conditioning coach for the gymnasts for 25 years. Actually, most of the athletes at UCLA. So he's amazing. He's great for maybe your athlete needs to get ready for college to get in. Most of them don't come ready conditioning wise, believe it or not. He knows how to do that. Or if your athlete's returning from injury, he's phenomenal. He works with the PT. He knows, he understands all of that. Or just maybe your athlete needs, you don't have a good conditioning plan at your club. He's really good with that. So reach out to us at JH Consulting. There's forms pages. You fill them out, and then we'll give you a call and explain everything in detail. That is jhicksconsulting.com. The next workshop is in 2 weeks, so November 19th, so the week before Thanksgiving. I'm not sure what that topic's going to be, but I try to pick something that I think most of you are really hungry for. All right, here we go. Topic number one, what no one tells you that could increase your gymnast recruiting to college. So, you know, college coaches recruit the top 3% of club gymnasts in the country. Even though that sounds like a small amount, it really is a small world of athletes. So, um, it may sound like the competition is really tough when you think, okay, only the top 3% are going to do college gymnastics. It's actually a bigger amount of athletes of gymnasts than you would think because it is a smaller compared to like football, basketball, and those kind of sports that they do in high school. It's a smaller group that they are recruiting from. So there are over 1,000 college gymnasts in our country right now competing Division one, two, and three. And there's 762 gymnasts who are on scholarships. So that's not terrible odds. There's also 52 acrobatic and tumbling programs in our country, Division one, two, and three. Even some gymnasts go into what's called stunt. There's a few colleges with that. And then there's also gymnasts who go into diving. We have a lot who go into pole vaulting, cheerleading, and dance. So there's a lot of different sports. I have girls that go into rowing, track and field. It's not just, we hope they do gymnastics. We love for them to do gymnastics, but sometimes they go different directions. I just wanted you to know there's so many opportunities. However, the college gymnastics recruiting process is often painted as a glamorous path to scholarships and team leotards and sparkle and glitter. But behind those highlights and those campus visits lies a maze of nuances that catch many families off guard or by surprise. So today I will be sharing from my own perspective and from college coaches what they're sharing with me, other parents that I've had, and former recruits. I also wanted you to know I do a podcast because I just loaded one this week with JJ. She was my client for the last year and a half. She was a late bloomer. And her and her mom share their story on my podcast. It's College Recruiting with Jill Hicks. So if you want to, listen to some of those, they're really short. They're like 20 minutes, but I try to give you a fun, glance into their stories that have been the girls that have been recruited and what it was like through a parent perspective and the athlete directly. So you may want to check that out. Okay, so here's what no one tells you. Um, these aren't just going to be tips. They're actually the gritty realities that separate the committed from the overlooked recruit. Remember, recruiting starts early, earlier than you think. Ideally, like I said, you want to start your foundation by level 9 or your freshman year of high school. And if you're athlete out there, and I saw some of you are 2028s, their recruiting is going to be starting right now. Now, the coaches can't talk to them, but they are eyeballing those athletes. So we want to be sure that their foundation is set. Okay. So everyone, whether you're elite or you're a level 9 trying to be a level 10 someday, you need to have strategy. There is strategy for every level of athlete. And depending on which schools your gymnast wants to pursue, when we as an advisor get their information and do our get to know you session, which is the first session we do, we actually develop a whole strategy based on her strengths, her desires, your desires for your athlete. And it really quick, because we've been advisors for a long time, we can think through, okay, what do we need to do to enhance this athlete? And that's what I want you to realize as a parent is that everybody's recruiting path and how they get there is going to look different. There's a foundation that's the same. There's certain things you have to do, but it's often very unique to the athlete, to what club you're from, to what schools they want to pursue, to their GPA, to their majors. There's a lot of things that we think about as an advisor here at JH Consulting to get the athlete from point A to point Z. Okay. So, number one, the first overlooked item that I wanted to share with you is that parents often don't understand the sport is difficult because it's technical, but skills drive recruiting. So, what do I mean by that? Most parents think, okay, when my gymnast gets to level 10, she's going to start the recruiting process and hopefully she's going to get recruited, right? Well, there are different levels of level 10. And the skills are what drive the recruiting because the skills are what create their start values. So the scoring system is different in club than it is in college. And so, for example, we as advisors take a look at all their skills and the direction of their future skills and see what kind of start values they're going to have. But even more important that the college coaches look at is their how clean they are or what their skills are going to look like. And they can tell, believe it or not, by level 7, level 8, level 9. They can look at those videos, which they don't have time to do. So they'll quickly look at usually their level 10, first year and see what kind of form do they have. So form is a big, big deal in the recruiting process. So most gymnasts have great academics, and most gymnasts who get to level 10 are all going to be considered hard workers because it's hard to get to that point. So those really aren't deal breakers in the recruiting process, those two items. Unless you want to go to the Ivies, of course. But how clean are her skills? Because that's the key in college is clean gymnastics. And they can
Thank you
see
for punching that.
very well. They can see it from a very young age, how clean their gymnastics is going to be or how strong it's going to be. So they're going to look at, does she do clean gymnastics? And like I said, it starts from a very young age. So are her toes pointed? Are her knees locked? What do her fingers look like when she
Been
dances?
so long since I did a private lesson on a punch card. I can't even
Lisa,
find it.
you need to mute yourself. Lisa, I'm not sure you knew that, but we can hear you talking. Um, all right. So are her shoulders down? Is her chin up? Is her head between her shoulders when she pirouettes on bars? Is her head between her shoulders when she does a round off? Does she have really good body shape positions? Okay, I do not expect parents to understand that in detail, but I just want you to realize most people don't talk about this. They don't explain it. And it's really hard, even though I've just pointed those things out, it's really hard for a parent to go, well, I have no idea. I just think she's great. And I go and watch her do gymnastics when she competes. But coaches know. Coaches know. So it's really important that you understand as a parent that your club coach is um, doing a good job when they're really young at taking them slowly enough to where their body shape positions, their head positions, their pointed toes, their gymnastics is very clean. You don't want to rush up the levels just to get her recruited because you think, oh, she has to get to level 10 really fast. Because if she's not going to be, her form isn't going to be there, that's a problem in the recruiting process. Number two, burnout. So, the top 20 teams are going to look for athletes that have a 10.0 start value, and they want gymnasts who won't burn out or disrupt the team dynamics. So, what do I mean by that? So, a lot of athletes who gymnastics comes easy for them, they get to level 10 earlier. But the problem is then they're competing level 10 sometimes for 4 or 5 years. And by the time they're recruitable, they're tired of it and their bodies are tired of it. So they're going to ask, how long have you been a level 10? And tell me why you do gymnastics and what do you love about gymnastics? What they're trying to find out there is, are you doing this because you love it, or are you doing this because it's the only thing you know to do? And you feel a responsibility because your parents have been taking you to the gym since you were 2 years old. So, believe it or not, a balance is really important. And these college coaches, they will talk to your club coach to find out if you really love the sport. They will talk to other recruits to find out if that recruit really wants to do this. What is their, personality like? What's their attitude like? Do they even, yet the other day I had one of my clients say it's been really hard in her gym because she hasn't been recruited yet, and all her teammates have. And she knows that a few of them don't even really want to do college gymnastics. So they may have more talent, but they don't really want to do it. And that's what college coaches fear the most underneath, that they're going to recruit somebody who's talented, but come in and disrupt the team because they're more about the social things, or they are only doing it because they feel like they have to. So that's something most college coaches will not tell you about. Number three. Now, this one is a sensitive topic, but I do feel like it's important, and I know it's talked about all the time, and that's body type. So, you might be thinking that as a parent, or maybe you're not, but I have to say, thank goodness we are, as a sport, way beyond having to have our gymnasts look, like one certain body type. So back in the when I competed in the 80s, the Russians, the Romanians they were all the ones winning the Olympics for the most part, late 70s. And they were all younger bodies and super thin because they were so young in age. They hadn't started their periods, they weren't developed as an athlete. And gymnastics, oftentimes in college, even when I was a club gymnast, and then my first years coaching college, there were a lot of girls who really struggled with thinking they had to look like that little child to be recruited or to do well even in college. Believe it or not, it was not good. That has really changed. And we now see so many gymnasts with a stronger physique shine in our sport, which has really benefited both club and college, if you ask me. So, but if a college coach, I mean, they're still going to look at body type, and they're not looking so much, is the athlete I'm going to recruit thin? That's not what they're looking at. Skinny, thin. No, they're not looking at that. They're thinking, okay, um, does it appear that this athlete has gone through puberty? Because you can really tell as a college coach if they've gone through puberty and they're managing it well. They're still strong, they're still healthy, they don't have recurring injuries. I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But body type matters. So when I say body type, it's not a prejudice towards one body type. Like it's more, can they, as they develop and grow, are they going to be as strong as they are with their skills now as they will be in 3 or 4 years when they actually arrive to my university? Or does it look like they're going through puberty and they're not as strong as they were? Now, sometimes college coaches look and go, okay, but they have a good work ethic and we're going to get them on a conditioning program here. And a lot of girls do really well in college, way better in managing their body type and getting stronger, and their gymnastics gets better just because they have a trainer, they have a weightlifting coach, they have nutritionists. And so as they're developing and going through puberty, they actually sometimes look better than they did in club, and both physically and as their body type and also their gymnastics. But that's a big topic no one talks about. And I know college coaches think about all the time because it's frightening when you recruit an athlete on a scholarship, they arrive and they can't do their skills. And it happens. I would say 10% of the time, every single year, one athlete will arrive and out of the 20, let's say, who can't do their skills anymore for a variety of reasons. Okay, so the coaches have to look at this. They have to. It's a business to them. They need girls to walk in and perform. So they look at body type. They don't talk about it, but they look at it. All right, number four. Um, you have to, as an athlete, hunt down college coaches. They won't always come to you. So nobody really talks about that. Most gymnasts think, okay, I'm putting my stuff out there and I'm not hearing from anyone. That's probably 90% of our clients. That's part of what we teach. Okay, who do we go after and how do we do it appropriately? Okay, so it's a big deal. The myth is that top level 10s and elites get automatic calls. The reality is, unless your gymnast is scoring super high at meets really consistently, she could get overshadowed. Okay. And it's not about winning meets because winning meets don't really matter if you're in a meet with weak other gymnasts who aren't very strong. So it's more about what are your scores, and then they go straight to Instagram to see the videos. Does it match up? Or did the judges just score this athlete high and she really can't score that high? So they do a deep dive on that. Remember that college coaches are swamped. They're receiving 500 plus, emails a year. So they definitely are going to look at scores. They're going to look at videos. So all those things are really valuable. But oftentimes, 90% of the time, you have to go after the college coach. All right. Number five, going to DP nationals does not always get you recruited. So that is something people don't talk about, but I can say DP nationals is an incredible opportunity for exposure. Almost all the college coaches in their budget can go to DP nationals to watch that meet. But because it's so crowded, even strong gymnasts can be overlooked. So you can't assume just because your gymnast qualifies to regionals and nationals that she's going to get recruited. I just had a parent say that in a session 2 days ago that most club coaches will say, we just got to get you to nationals. Makes sense. Nationals is important. It can get you recruited, but it's not always the reason why you're going to get recruited. The best college recruiters look back at several years prior to you making it to nationals to see, what region are you in and how did you score and how consistent are you and are you strong on the events that we need. Number six, College teams vote after your gymnast visits campus. Okay, this is, yeah, not fun to hear as an athlete. It's kind of scary for the recruits to go on visits. And then I have to say, okay, you got to do a really good job because here's why. They're going to vote after you leave. So if four recruits come to campus on an official visit, all the all the athletes, all the staff members, they're going to vote and say, did how did you like that athlete? So nobody talks about that, but it's true. And it's one way for them to see how did the recruit connect with our team and with our staff. Um, Number seven, it's a brutal fact that attrition is high in the sport of gymnastics. So 20 to 30% don't finish their eligibility due to what I talked about earlier, burnout or fitness issues. So your gymnast needs to be very resilient in their training now, even mental coaching to compete well mentally and for handling, feedback of all sorts. So whether it's in the recruiting process feedback, whether it's in their skills, whether it's in learning how to compete, those things can all elevate somebody in the recruiting process because of that. College coaches want an athlete they're recruiting to be there for 4 years, to compete for 4 years. So they look back at the history of every athlete they're recruiting to see how hardy are they, how sturdy are they, you know. Number eight, healthy bodies with potential for more trumps the flashy upgrades. Okay, this is definitely something athletes get confused. So when I can tell because some of the gymnasts out there are posting like really flashy skills, but I can tell as a coach, they're probably either not going to compete that skill for a very long time, or if they do, they're going to have too many deductions. So it's not benefiting them in the recruiting process. So they're looking for, again, that hardy body, that strong ability to handle all their landings and all the meets, and with potential for even more because they know, gosh, they're not even going to come to their college for a couple more years. So that's really important. Coaches aren't recruiting one meet wonders. They want 4 year contributors who stay healthy, ignoring tweaks or poor nutrition signals, red flags with injuries can be, a problem that they might see as a red flag. However, once in a while, I do see these girls get recruited who have no scores or they haven't competed for 2 years. So I'm not oblivious to that, and I'm sure nor are you, because it can be very frustrating to see that. But some athletes do have a story that we don't understand, and college coaches look into those stories and sometimes recruit them. All right, number nine. Okay, so this is something we're going to move into in the next topic, but how is they're not going to say it out loud, but they're thinking the whole time when they're recruiting an athlete, will they fit into our team and how coachable are they? So it can be a make or break situation. And the let's say you're an athlete who comes on a visit and you make a mistake on that visit. You make a decision. There's horror stories with recruiting. Um, and there are most coaches, like I said, are going to ask the host of whoever was recruiting that weekend for them or hosting the athlete, um, how did it really go? What did they talk about? What did they say? Um, the girls on the team know what the vibe is on the team and whether or not an athlete's going to fit in. And so they are watching and hearing everything. So they don't always talk about this, but it can be a reason why a coach wouldn't move forward with an athlete in the recruiting process. And some athletes might come away from their visits and go, I didn't get an offer. And they might not really know why. And it might have been something really simple as that, because that is a big deal when you get there. They want to know that you're going to fit in to their team culture. Okay. Topic number two, how to help your gymnast prepare to adjust to her college team. 35%, like I said, Division One athletes reported feeling socially isolated on their teams. 25% feel like they do not belong on the team. 18 to 22% reported significant interpersonal conflict with teammates, coaches, or even bullying. Number four, 1 in 5 said they do not feel supported by teammates. And number five, 30% of female athletes and 22% of male athletes reported team culture issues like cliques or toxic dynamics. Whew, that is not very encouraging as parent. I can tell you, there are some really great head coaches out there who understand these statistics and they work really hard. That's why you see all those bonding trips. When you see the girls report in September, the colleges, they post pictures of bonding, going horseback riding or going to the beach, or that's where their starting point is, where they want to create a safety spot of unity for the team because they know that there's going to be a percentage when they arrive that are going to struggle. So, how do we deal with that? Um, I think there's a few things as parents that we can do right now with your athlete in middle school and in her high school years. So I would say teach your child baby steps about talking about this. You don't want to frighten them by saying, anything negative, but I think there's so many examples they're going to go through in while they're in your household that you can be helping them understand how to have proper ability to connect with friends, with their own teammates and their club teams, with their when they go to nationals, they create those teams. That's a great opportunity. Or when they go to regional camps, all those situations are going to be with people they might not know, they might not like, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about it as a family. Let's prepare them. So then when they go to college, it's not going to be the first time that they feel like an outsider, is my suggestion. So you want to empower them, but not rescue them. So you want them to learn and grow so that they remember how hard it was maybe in another experience before college so that they can use those skills when they get there. So, build some self-awareness. So there might be awkwardness to your daughter. Maybe she isn't aware of how she's coming across, and maybe working with her now while she's at home. Um, let's see, social skills, like I said, will really impact her, not only her uh, when she gets to a college team, but also her future as a person in college with other students, and also her future in her working world. So it's a great life skill to work on them now. Teach them how to have realistic expectations. So I think it's really important to have a conversation and say, it could be hard when you get there. So if your daughter's, let's say she's somebody who's already made a verbal commitment, she already knows who her team is, she already went on a visit, but she's scared. She's really scared to actually arrive and wonder, is it going to be what she hoped? And will she have any friends? I think girls especially are don't want to be alone on the team. They want to have somebody that they feel comfortable with. So you want to teach them how to have realistic expectations that it might not happen for a few months. I know all the years that I coached, many times the girls didn't feel a bond until they had their first meet. And then they had to rely on each other. And we had lots of team meetings. We would talk about this. And even an outsider has something to offer to every team. And I think it really does come down to that head coach. So when they're picking their colleges, it's something to consider, to really be aware of. Maybe help them talk to them about picking, if they're not good with a whole group, maybe they can pick one friend. And I even think sometimes rooming with somebody who's not on the team, the gymnastics team, can be really beneficial because they have a life then outside of gymnastics. And I know that really benefited me. I had a whole group of friends that had nothing to do with gymnastics. They'd come to the meets, they were really supportive, but they were never athletes. And it was so fun to be cared for by friends who didn't know me as an athlete, and I just absolutely love that. And so encourage them to find friends and tell them it's going to be hard. I mean, I think it's risky. I think it feels uncomfortable. I think it's if you're sharing all that with them in the years prior to when they go to college, then they're not going to be shocked when they're sitting in their dorm room and they don't know what to do. They don't know, they don't want to go out drinking. Maybe the rest of the team is all out drinking. I mean, I'm hearing these stories all the time, every year. And maybe that's not her gig. So she has to find people who like to do other things, but they have to initiate. It's not going to come to them necessarily. So having those kind of conversations so that they're prepared and prepped and ready for that, I think can help them have a much more successful freshman year. Okay, that's the two topics today. Typically you guys would just hop right off here, but oh, here's a question. How do you assign advisors to the gymnasts when a family signs up with JH Consulting? So some families ask for a certain advisor because someone in their gym recommended that advisor, or some families meet our advisors at a meet or Beam Queen Boot Camp or level 9 Easterns or Westerns. So we might match them up that way. If they want to do acrobatics and tumbling, we have an advisor for that. So I sort of look at the whole picture when I read your forms page, and you can recommend or ask for an advisor too. My daughter has had multiple calls with the head coach and one with the assistant coach, recruiting coordinator. Does this mean they're interested? My daughter is a second year level 10, 2027, and has worked with Joan. It's an Ivy. I'm not sure who Joan is. We don't have a Joan. Do you mean an advisor, Joan? Maybe you mean I'm not sure who you would mean. We don't have a Joan. Okay. Yes, that sounds very promising. When you've had a conversation with the head coach, your daughter, and the assistant coach, and you have the grades, your daughter has the grades for an Ivy. Um, I think in your 27, um, they usually invite the athletes to what's called junior days. That's another telltale sign that they're very interested. They might ask for transcripts, but they wait till the end of your junior year in order to typically make offers because they want to get all those grades and classes in front of the admissions counselor people first before they make a hard offer. So, but this is definitely the beginning phase, and it looks promising, I would say. Anybody else have any questions? Happy to answer. Looks like we have a lot of people who are level 10, so that's fantastic. But please invite family, we our friends. We have some level 8s. I love it. It goes by really fast, people. I'm telling you, you think you're going to have all this time, and you got to think more sophomore year, end of sophomore year is when it starts. It's not their senior year typically, although we have a lot of clients who get recruited that year. So um, everybody's on a different path, and I hope this was helpful. These are definitely some things most people don't talk about. Here's one. I don't hear a lot about mental blocks in college. How do coaches handle it? Ooh, that's a really good question. Mental blocks in college. Well, they don't have a lot of time for that. I can tell you this, but sometimes college coaches are really good at managing that. So they might change the skill. So maybe it's a skill your athlete's been doing her whole life and her club coach wouldn't let her change it. And maybe in college they go, hey, it's not working for you. Let's change it. And that can really, really help. Other times they might get them help with a somebody who can with mental blocks. They have specialists that they hire at the colleges sometimes. And sometimes they don't get to compete in an event if it takes too long to break that mental block. They'll move on to an athlete who, because they only need six on each event, five that count. So sometimes they move along. Wondering about how many girls get recruited every year per graduating class on average. Yeah, it used to be three to four per program on average. And now, with all the changes to the rosters due to the lawsuit, we're going to see a lot of uh, probably things we haven't seen before. But on average, in the last 30 years that I've been doing this, it's about three to four per program. Do athletes from Canada have to do anything different to increase their odds of getting recruited? We have a Canadian advisor, Vicky, who's incredible. She's from Canada. She works with all our Canadians. She'd be the one to talk to. Um, I recruited a lot of Canadians in my years of being a college coach, and yeah, it's a little bit different. And I would definitely encourage you to hire an advisor. It's tougher to get recruited. They just don't have the same exposure that the girls here in the USA have. We have filled out a form on your website. How long will it be to hear back? Usually 24 hours. That's our goal. So when I send these out to my advisors, your forms pages, we like to get right back to you. But if you haven't received something in 24 hours, look in your spam box because a lot of times it goes there and we don't know that. So then we try to give a phone call or we do a phone call and then if you don't answer, we send an email, but those emails can go to spam. So keep your eyes open. Any other questions, y'all? Let's see. What is the etiquette if a gymnast has Instagram public account for recruitment, but also a private account and coaches request the gymnast private account? Yeah, they're going to go to those private accounts if they can get in there. They want to see what is that athlete really like. So sometimes it's they just don't realize they're in a private account. I've done that so many times. But other times it's because they want to see everything about the athlete. They want to know about family, they want to know your personal life. So I don't know, it could be. So make sure both accounts are really well done. I would say as a parent, you should always be scoping them and monitoring them as a parent because they are just kids trying to figure this all out. If junior year is your first year level 10, does it help to contact coaches before season? Not necessarily. Again, I would have to see the athlete, look at her videos. It's not always best to it depends on how, usually they want to see level 10s compete level 10. So you're not going to get a ton of traction unless you're showing 10 start values, full routines, on Instagram. Otherwise, they usually like to watch a level 10 compete at least 1 year before they start making contact. But again, it depends. Great questions. This is the first time you guys have asked questions. I love it. It is now 12:45, so I'm going to hop off here. Thank you for the great advice. Getting to know you posts. Good. Glad you liked it. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, everyone. We're at jhicksconsulting.com. We'd love to have you here. And we we are really, I think, a program that looks at every individual personally, and every athlete gets their own personal advisor. So we like to build their confidence. It's way more than just gymnastics that we're, attuned to. So, and that's what makes us different, I think. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day. And I will be back here in 2 weeks with another hot topic.